When I first finished Stormblood, I stepped inside Eureka and fumbled my way to elemental level 3 or 4 and promptly left. That was a long time ago. My first impressions was that it seemed like a lot of grinding and very little direction, so why would I do that when I could continue the MSQ instead? So I left Eureka for the most part. I think I went in once or twice, got a few more elemental levels, and then forgot about it again. But 2 weeks ago, I got inspired. I saw another person with the elemental armor set, and I said, I'm gonna get that. So I went all in and spent most of my gaming time for the past 2 weeks in Eureka. And I was actually really surprised how much fun I had. One of the barriers to entry I had was I never really got a good explanation of what the hell Eureka actually is. Everyone just says, it's a big grind, but everyone said that about Bajja too, and I adore Bajja. So what is Eureka? Well, it's a big grind. Yeah, I know, but what are we grinding for? We're grinding for a glowy weapon, a very unique glowy armor, and ending it with a cool mount. There's really two main things we need for all that: elemental levels and crystals. Elemental level is an alternative leveling system that's self-contained within Eureka. Your job is set to level 70 and item level is scaled to 300, so your power is all connected to elemental level. You get elemental experience like normal by killing mobs and doing fates called notorious monsters. Speaking of notorious monsters, those are how we get the crystals I mentioned. If your elemental level is close enough to the notorious monster, you get some crystals, and then use those crystals to upgrade your weapon and later on buy your glowy armor. That's 90% of Eureka right there. You get elemental levels and crystals and repeat for 4 different zones. Explained simply like that, it sounds boring, but hear me out. There's a lot of cool things that happen along the way. For one, it was really nice to feel like I'm always making progress. Even if I mess up or get lost or have no idea where the next quest hand-in is, at least I got some experience, or I did a new notorious monster I've never seen before and got a handful more crystals. And I really love the feeling of exploration when you're new to any zone. And because the elemental levels vary so much, some parts of the zones feel legitimately dangerous to go alone. It feels really good to start a zone and feel weak and helpless to leveling up enough to crush everything around you. There's also extra things to find other than experience and crystals if you're interested. There's some rare drops that apparently still sell on the market board for like 10 million gil. I learned to love the treasure bunny fates that end in a game of hot and cold to find a surprisingly valuable treasure chest. Seriously, some of those chests give 100,000 raw gil and give stacks of items I've sold for 200,000 gil. It's actually a legitimate gil farm. As for things I didn't care for, there's a few. It is a grind, and while most of the time I enjoyed it, there were a few times when I felt stuck in between a good level range, and I just had to suck it up and solo grind by myself for a little while. I didn't care much for the logogram actions much, or rather, the requirement that I have to discover all of them. I just ended up buying all of them on the market board, learned them all while discarding them one after another until I had them all. And honestly, I feel like they could drop more crystals in Hydatos. That grind was a little painful. The last thing I want to talk about is the Baldessian Arsenal. The Baldessian Arsenal was amazing, but it wasn't amazing for the content itself. The raid itself was cool, but nothing mind-blowing. The amazing part, which is the best part of Eureka as a whole in my opinion, is the community. You see, the Baldessian Arsenal is a 56-man raid where if you complete it without dying, you get the coveted Ozma mount. And while the raid isn't really too hard, it is very punishing with one-shot mechanics, traps between bosses. Hell, the last boss can suck you in a black hole and send you back to town where you will not receive duty completion. But all this is fine, because there's a huge community of people that organize runs to get people through the raid smoothly. I had the pleasure of joining one of these runs from the Crystal Adventuring Forays and Expeditions Discord, or Cafe for short. They were amazing group leaders that led tons of newbies like me through this and had a great time. If anyone from that Discord watches this, thank you so much for what you do for the community. Not only that, but I was amazed that every step along my journey through Eureka, there were tons of people still doing this content all the time. And nearly everyone there is eager to help. If I died somewhere and needed a res, all I had to do was ask in Shout Chat, and someone would find me and res me right away. The Notorious Monsters have a standard pull timer of 3 minutes to let everyone get to them in time. And if you need more time, just ask, and everyone waits for you to get there. It's pretty awesome. Some people remembered my name from prep groups I joined earlier in the week and greeted me like old friends. It was such a positive, fun experience that I'm going to continue at least enough to get another glowy armor set, or maybe even another weapon, we'll see. To wrap this video up, even though Eureka is years old, it's still lots of fun and felt very rewarding to do in 2023. Like every video game, it's probably not for everyone, but I suggest finishing the first zone at least to get a good feel for it. Hopefully, you'll have as much fun as I did.